Hi everyone, I'm the Book Guy, and welcome back. We're in the middle of our monthly theme of Indie November. This is where I'm introducing some independently published authors to you who deserve a little bit more recognition for their amazing writing. Now last week I did Michael R. Miller's first series, The Dragon's Blade, and today we're looking at his second series, The Songs of Chaos. You might have guessed already by these beautifully, masterfully painted covers, but yes, these are a Dragon Rider story. We're seeing a bit of a resurgence lately in the Dragon Rider story, and I'm all for it. This is like Aragon, but better. Seriously, this is good writing. I mentioned in my video last week that Michael R. Miller was a young author when he did Dragon's Blade, who had a lot of natural talent, but still needed some practice. Well, this is the point where he's had the practice. This is where Michael R. Miller becomes the author he truly was meant to be. I noticed straight away in book one that it had a strong introduction, a step up in quality. This is the real Michael R. Miller. The first book is about 500 pages, the next two are about 600, 650, so they're pretty substantial books. This is also going to be a 5-book series, or at least 5 books. So there's more to come. The real question is, do you want to climb on the back of this particular dragon and ride it to new heights? Let's see if the Songs of Chaos series is going to be right for you. Holt Cook is from a family of cooks. In this particular world, everyone shares the same job as their family, and you are forever bound to stay there. The heroes of the society are the Dragon Riders. They're the famous rock stars who protect humanity from the absolute frickin' horrors of the Scourge. And bloody hell, the Scourge, they're a race of insectoid monsters that eat everything. Also, whatever is left of their victims is reanimated into the undead. This blight is spreading across the land like a disease. The Dragon Riders are the only thing that can hold it back as they work to save humanity from a fate worse than death. However, the Dragon Riders are kinda jerks, especially to the working class cooks like Holt. While working for them, Holt discovers a terrible truth. These dragons kill their own young if they are not born perfect. Holt cannot bear to watch. Moved by pity, he steals a doomed dragon egg in open defiance of the dragons and his entire society. That's how he meets Ash, a blind dragon. Meanwhile, the Scourge is growing in power. Their tactics are changing, guided by some dark power now, and the Dragon Riders are failing to contain it. Holt must connect with the power of his dragon quickly and learn their magic if they are to have any hope of survival. Alright, so in last week's video, I kept getting distracted by academic topics like the modernization of the high fantasy genre. Today, I'm going to right this terrible wrong, and we're going to talk straight away about plot and character. Right after this. Alright, let's acknowledge this up front. Yes, this is a Dragon Rider story. And yes, we've seen the concept before. But I want to encourage those of you who might be inclined to dismiss this as an old concept to reconsider. People can be very critical when science fiction or fantasy have a similar concept to other stories, which always bugs me because we don't have the same level of criticism in other genres. If you ever read much crime or romance, you know, the two biggest best-selling genres of them all, you will find that there are a ton of repeated concepts and repeated storylines that are repeated. See what I did there? Yet I remember when Avatar came out and made all the money, and a common critique was, it's just Pocahontas or Fern Gully with blue people. And I want to defend this. See, all stories have an element of similarity to other stories. That doesn't make it bad. In fact, I like seeing similar concepts done in different ways. It's like the artist Claude Monet, who famously did those water lily paintings. I had to look this up. He painted approximately 250 oil paintings of water lilies, and they are all beautiful. So this is a Dragon Rider concept, but it is a totally different story. It is a very original take on a tried and tested concept that goes in a very interesting new direction. Think of it like you're going on 2 road trips using the same vehicle. The vehicle may operate the same, but the journeys and destinations are different in literally every other way. Besides, the whole Dragon Rider thing is just one part of the story. There's a lot more to it. Let's discuss plot lines. Today we'll discuss the 5 approximate plot lines that you will see in this series. Number 1, and my personal favourite. This is a coming-of-age story that deals with the gradual complexity of life. So Holt's worldview at the start is pretty black and white. I mean, come on, it's a story about dragon riders fighting super monsters. That's pretty straightforward. But even as early as book 1, we see greater degrees of moral complexity. There are multiple sides to this conflict. In fact, let's whip out an alignment chart. Bam! So the Scourge are definitely chaotic evil, emphasis on chaotic and emphasis on evil. And we have Holt Cook, our hero protagonist, who is a fairly neutral good with an element of chaotic thrown in there for the mix. That part's pretty straightforward. But over time, we meet other characters, like the mysterious villain known only as Sovereign, who is very much a neutral evil, focused on his own goals and self-gain. We have powerful organizations that are so obsessed with following the letter of the law that they are more lawful neutral than anything good. We meet chaotic good heroes who are devoted to doing the right thing but sometimes want to go way too far. And we have other human countries who see the invading Scourge as a chance to claim back territory, so they're very much more of a chaotic neutral. I could go on, but I'm trying to avoid specific names and spoilers here, but you get the idea. The world becomes kinda messy. The lines between good and evil get blurred a whole lot, and naivety gets punished hard. In fact, it reminds me of a certain popular anime. Attack on Titan starts out relatively simple as well. Humanity versus Titans, very black and white. And then the world gets more complicated, and a whole lot darker. And a whole lot darker again. And again. And again. Now, I don't think Holt Cook is going to go all Eren Yeager on us. He better not. But this is a similar type of story. Songs of Chaos is a coming-of-age story that starts with a childlike hope and wonder and a dream of making the future brighter, and ends up dealing with some pretty damn harsh realities. This is a mature story about a good person with a good heart trying to stay good in an often unforgiving world. Alright, plotline number 2, there are multiple conflicts. The other benefit to the whole alignment chart thing is that with multiple villains and multiple alliances, you have multiple conflicts. So we have bad guys who just destroy, bad guys who outsmart and outplan. We have neutral guys who just get in the way, and good guys who struggle to work together because they have conflicting ideals. There are many types of character goals that overlap throughout this series. Some of the characters fight monsters with epic magic, other times they negotiate politics with liars and manipulators. But the multiple sources of conflict make this a very interesting story. Plotline number 3, learning magic. So Holt and his baby dragon have to learn magic in order to survive, and this is a pretty detailed magic system. So the magic in Michael Miller's previous series, The Dragon's Blade, was a pretty soft magic. This is medium going on hard, and the longer it goes on, the harder it gets. I didn't like that sentence. A short summary of the magic here is that the dragons themselves are creatures of magic, and when they bond with the rider can draw out the magic from the dragon's core. There are 6 types of dragons, and each of them have their own branch of magic. However, each rider has to exercise their magic in order to make it stronger. They have cleansing and forging, which allows them to remove impurities and grow stronger, respectively. Over time, the rider has to advance in rank, because each rank allows them to draw on more of the dragon's core, all the way up to 100% of it. And those ranks are Ascendant, Champion, Lord, and Paragon, with a couple of sub-ranks in between those. So there's a huge emphasis on the magic in this series, to the point where I would say it is a major plotline, and it takes some really interesting twists and turns too. Though I will say, there were times, particularly in the first book, where I felt like it talked about magic a little too much, and I was like, okay, next scene, please. But if you enjoy a good magic system, you will enjoy this. Plotline number 4, magical mysteries. This is a similar type of plotline to Dragon's Blade, but I'm always happy to see this plot type.
A surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
There are some big mysteries in this world that are explored little by little, and they lead to some of the most satisfying twists and revelations. So where did the Scourge come from? And why do they act this way? Who are the wild elder dragons, and why don't they cooperate with the dragon riders? What about the history of the dragons and humans? Is that an accurate history or is that a fake history? There's a lot to explore here. And plotline number 5, Avengers Assemble. A major plotline is the search for allies to join them in the upcoming conflict. There's a lot of journeys to faraway places to call upon higher powers. There is politicking and talk of marriage alliances, and best of all, there are a group of freaks and outcasts who join together to fight with their special abilities. Who doesn't love a group of social outcasts? Technically, there is a 6th plotline, which is more about these amazing character arcs, but that's for our next segment. Oh, little Esme just wanted to come interrupt, didn't you? She's like, what you doing? Good girl. Good girl. Okay, I'm gonna pop you down again, okay? She's the most temperamental cat. Yesterday she was all cuddles, and today she's all scratches. So I said in my last video that Michael Miller's natural strength as a writer is in his character work, and that definitely holds true for Songs of Chaos as well. This series does a lot of character work. In fact, I kind of want to address something here. So this series is not as action-packed as the last one. There's still a lot of really good action scenes, particularly in the finale of each book, but it's not like Dragon's Blade, where you get long battle campaigns. If you read Dragon's Blade first, like I did, you might be surprised by the smaller number of action scenes. And I think the reason for this is that this series goes deeper. Instead of action, we get deeper world building, deeper magic, but also deeper character arcs. A lot of time is spent on character in this series to great effect. So our 2 main characters in the series are Holt Cook and Talia the Princess. And I'm introducing them together because they have this brilliant symmetry in their characterization. So Holt is working class, who should never have become a dragon rider. And Talia is literal royalty, the uppermost of the upper class. And yet she also defied society to abandon her royal duties and become a dragon rider too. So both of them have this great coming-of-age story about growing up, dealing with a much more complicated world than they expected. So despite obvious differences in their class, they have incredible similarities as well. You might even say Talia is hot-headed and needs to learn to chill out a bit, and Holt is way too chill and needs to learn how to get angry.
Well, excuse me, princess.
Also, you would not believe the romantic tension between them. I should also mention, Holt's dragon is Ash, and Talia's dragon is Pyra. And I probably should have written something about it, but apparently I have dragon prejudice and only talked about the human characters.
I re-examined my personal biases.
We also have Brode, who is a former dragon rider who lost his dragon. We don't quite know how, but now he teaches the next generation. He is cynical with the capital C. In fact, the only person more cynical might be Rake. So Rake is some sort of mutation. He is half human and half dragon. We don't know how that happened either. Now he is a social outcast who is more interested in, well, murdering the bad guys rather than actually saving anyone. The real star here is Osric, and unfortunately I can't say anything about his arc because it's a secret, but it's great. Alright, look, Osric is brother to the king, so he is Talia's uncle. His whole arc is about atoning for past sins, and the struggle with personal failure and inner darkness. He has an incredibly nuanced arc. In my mind, he kind of stole the whole series, and my heart. The entire society of dragon riders is based on order and chaos. So everything and everyone has to fit in to this system of order, because the Scourge are the chaos, and the riders represent order. That's why everyone has family names, and a place in society, and a part they have to play.
Everybody on this island has a role on this island.
However, this system also punishes anyone who doesn't fit in. So all the freaks, the outcasts, the unwanted of society, and sometimes this system of order is so rigid that it has lost its humanity.
It just seems too heartless.
This is especially true when battle is looming and we start seeing how some lives are prioritized more than others. This leads us to the theme of classism. It's something explored a lot in this series, in that we see the protagonist Holt is from a lower class and the protagonist Talia from the upper class. We see people who are familiar with suffering who develop empathy, and those who have not experienced a lot of suffering can develop a lot of callousness. I really enjoy seeing classism discussed in fiction, because Classism is a form of prejudice that you can discuss without everyone getting triggered by all the politics. And what I mean is that if you discuss issues like gender on the internet, there will always be some idiot who has a freaking meltdown in the comments section. Classism does not inspire the same level of passion, so it's a great way for writers to explore human nature and themes of prejudice without causing too much offense. Plus, it's something I think we should all be talking about through fiction because classism affects us all. But moving on. Now, the Scourge are a fantastic original villain to this series. Now, there are many types of monsters within the Scourge army. So think of it like the Zerg from StarCraft, not so much in the insectoid style, but in unit composition. So the Zerg have these little Zerglings, we have the Hydralisk who shoots stuff, and the Ultralisk for when you need to go beast mode. In the same way, the Scourge have a bunch of different forms. And that's all I'm going to tell you, because I want them to be a horrifying surprise. Seriously, the Scourge are the closest Michael Miller gets to writing truly adult content. There's just a little bit of horror, and just a hint of graphic violence. I'd still say the series is suitable for kids to read, because it won't be disturbing in any way, but I'd also say it's as scary as it can be without being genuinely upsetting. So it's a fine line to walk, but it's walked well. One last world building detail. While the fight with the Scourge is localized mostly to one country, we see pretty quickly that this is a big world. In fact, there's a map.
There's a binder? Why didn't you lead with that, you idiot?
I'm gonna just leave you two alone.
Okay.
The later books in the series go deeper into other parts of the world, and Michael Miller does a great job of setting up each location as a unique people with unique culture, specific relation to the Dragon Riders, etc. It's a big world without being confusing. There is a lot of failure in Songs of Chaos. This series has almost grimdark levels of failure, without having the grimdark levels of violence. So many plotlines end in failure. This is a hard thing to pull off, but it creates this beautiful tension when you know that victory and survival is not guaranteed. Some conflict is less about winning, and more about trying to limit how much you fail by, minimizing losses. This is a beautiful theme to pair up with the coming of age story. So many stories that are about growing up are more about finding your courage and the true meaning of friendship, but showing us how characters deal with falling down over and over? Well, that's a much tougher story, and one we all need to hear sometimes. There's a beautiful conversation in one of the later books. It's really stuck with me. Someone asks Holt, "Do you think you've done more good than harm?" And Holt honestly struggles to give an answer at first. And this is very moving because, for one, it's a sign of some very ambitious storytelling. It's hard to balance that much failure and success so evenly and keep your audience interested. But it's also something that I think we can all connect with on a personal level. Has my life caused more good than harm? We all wonder that sometimes. It can be hard to know, even if we've been trying our best to always do good. But the lesson we see in Songs of Chaos is that the most important thing is to always keep trying. So the dragons in this world are fully sentient and intelligent, with slightly stronger animal instincts. So they are basically people, but bigger, and with tails, and teeth, and wings.
Oh, you know what? I never even should have used a metaphor. I'm better than that.
As you would expect, the human-dragon relationship and dynamic can be pretty tense. You might think, hey, they ride together, they must all be best friends, right?
Nope.
Many of these dragon riders have more of a professional working relationship with their dragons rather than true friendship. And do you like all of your work friends? I certainly don't. And if my work friends are watching, sorry you had to find out this way. The fact is, there are tons of tension between the humans and the dragons. Each distrusts the other, each one thinks that they are the superior race, and each believe that they were the first race on the planet. I really enjoy the depiction here of dragons as people. They look different and act different, but they are people at their heart, for better or worse. They have the same capacity for love and the same capacity for hatred. I'm also going to mention here, this series has a fantastic audiobook production. That might seem like a bit of a random tangent, just hang in there. I read the first 2 books physically and then listened to the 3rd one, and damn, I see why it's an audiobook bestseller. The narrator is Peter Kenny, who famously did the narration for the Witcher novels. And he does a brilliant dragon's voice for every dragon character. So when you're reading the book, the words of the dragons look like the words of other people, but when you listen to it, you are constantly reminded that this is actually a different species. They feel larger when they speak. And on that note, this is something I'm noticing that a lot of indie authors don't seem to quite understand. If you want a really good cover, you gotta pay for a really good artist. If you want really good writing and flawless prose, you gotta pay for a really good editor. If you want a good audiobook, you gotta pay for a top quality narrator. Self-publishing is not cheap, but it's literally a business. And the more you invest, the more quality you get out. And the higher your quality, the more likely you will find success. A lot of indie authors publish as cheap as possible. It's understandable, but then it shows in the final product. Alright, I got a bit off track, but in summary, the series is great in audiobook form because it gives an extra bit of life to the dragons. Genuinely adds a lot to the depiction of the human-dragon dynamic in the story. This series also has a free novella. So similar to The Dragon's Blade, Michael Miller has written a 100-page novella set in the universe of Songs of Chaos. And it is available for free to anyone who signs up to his mailing list. His team are also in the process of recording an audiobook for that one. The audiobook will also be free once it's finished. So this short novella is the story of Brode. So he's the cynical guy who doesn't have a dragon. Now, for much of the first book, Ascendant, his background is a total mystery. But we eventually learn what's happened. Well, the story in the novella is the full story of what happened in Brode's past. Please note, it is called Last Stand for good reason. It's not exactly a happy story. We see why Brode is so cynical, and why he has no faith in the Dragon Riders, and why he disdains their obsession with choosing order over chaos. Now, you can read the novella first if you just want to sample the writing of Michael Miller, but it does have light spoilers for Book 1, Ascendant, in that it reveals the whole mystery plotline of Brode's backstory, and there is some build-up to that. The official reading order is Ascendant, then the novella, then the next 2, but it is up to you if you want to go straight to the novella. If you do want to grab your free copy, check the description below for a link, or you can just look up Michael R. Miller's website directly. If you're on YouTube, I assume you know how to use a computer. Yeah. I'm excited to talk about this one. So Holt's dragon Ash is in fact blind. He's nearly killed for being blind as well. This is some excellent disability rep, both practically and emotionally. So practically, first, there is constant thought put into what it would be like for a dragon to be blind. How would you fly? How would you need your rider to direct you in the heat of battle? What's day-to-day life like? This is where we as a reader see an empathetic, realistic depiction of disability in this world. Emotionally, this is a harder part to write. We see what it's like emotionally to live with a disability, and more than that, to constantly feel different to everyone else. To constantly make people slow down and make allowances for you. This is something Michael Miller does a great job with because he has his own disability. He lives with cystic fibrosis, which is an inherited and life-threatening condition that affects the lungs primarily and other organs as well. It includes living with chronic pain and difficulty breathing. So Michael Miller has depicted the emotional weight of living with a disability by drawing on his own experiences. It gives this representation a strong degree of accuracy. In fact, Miller also drew on his own experiences when he was creating his magic system. So the magical arts of cleansing and forging a dragon's core was inspired by breathing exercises he undertakes for living with cystic fibrosis. It's a beautiful way to share his experiences with others, and it only makes my respect for this guy go even higher. Well, once again, there is no content warning for Michael R. Miller's work. This is great for those of you with a weak constitution. I'm kidding. So there's no sex, no swearing, no adult content whatsoever. There is a little bit more violence in this series and a little bit of light horror whenever the Scourge are around. And even then, the book does a great job of conveying to you the details of what's happening, but without exposing the full graphicness and horror of it. So this is great for those of you who might have an easily upset stomach.
I'm in a perfect utopia, and I have a stomachache.
No stomach aches for you. So this series is just over halfway through. There is a planned 5 books in total, and we've just done 3. I will say, Michael R. Miller is a gifted and prolific writer. His books come out almost 1 per year, so I don't think we're going to be waiting a decade for Winds of Winter. I mean, books 4 and 5, hey! That said, as it stands, I genuinely think Defiant is probably the best book he's written, which means it's definitely worth reading to the end of the series right now as it stands, because the quality is consistently getting even better. And good news, this series starts out strong. Book 1, Ascendant, is an excellent example of what you will continue to get in books 2 and 3. So you can read the first one and straight away you'll be able to tell if this series is right for you, and if it's worth for you to continue onwards. So I hope you'll give that a try. Good luck, my friends, and happy reading. Okay, so that was my introduction to Songs of Chaos. I hope you like the sound of that, and make sure you also check out my other video on Michael R. Miller's first series, The Dragon's Blade. And make sure you tune in to this weekend when I chat with Michael R. Miller live on YouTube. I'm very excited to announce this is my first author's interview. I'll be asking Michael about both of his series, about being an indie author, about all sorts of nerdy things. And you're welcome to join me and ask your own questions. In fact, I'll even have my lovely wife Kit sitting in on the interview and reading out your questions directly, so it will be a great opportunity for you to engage directly with indie author Michael, or myself if you really want. So that's just in 2 days' time, or if you're watching this video later, then that means that interview is up now, so go enjoy it. If you want to support the work I'm doing to promote different books and make reading more accessible, please interact with this video in some way and subscribe to the channel. You can also check out our shop, Rainbow Space Unicorn. Anything you purchase will help me keep making videos like this one. So thanks for watching. I am the Book Guy, and I hope you enjoy a good book today. Bye!